Welcome once again. We started talking about vulnerability, we talked about transparency, and specifically today, we've decided to talk about those maybe events in our lives that have brought us to the point of intimacy. There are things, folks, that happen to us sometimes that, like we said before in an earlier podcast, that we can either go to the Lord or run away from Him. And a lot of people, as Scott was saying a little while ago, people that maybe are hurt by the church, put God and the church on the same level, and they run away from the church and God as a result. But there are events that happen in our lives, and sometimes, honestly, catastrophic events that lead us to this place of despair where we either go to God because we have a relationship with Him or we run away. One of the reasons I've chosen these guys personally to be podcasters is because they've run to Him. And I'd like us to maybe to talk a little bit about that today, guys, to begin the process of being honest about some of those events. And I guess we don't have to go through specifics with the event, but I'd like to talk about specifics and how that brought us to a more intimate relationship with God. So, whoever wants to start today, go for it. It's a big one today, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can just share just what happened before this podcast. We were just recording. I was just feeling off, feeling like I didn't have anything to share. Like all these thoughts started coming against me, and just hesitant to share. So I was just inside, and God's like, "Well, you need to share it with the other guys." So I did, and then they prayed for me, and just instantly felt so much better. And that's something I really learned. Like, what the enemy wants to do is that he bombards us with thoughts and makes us believe that they're our own. That those are my thoughts, so I shouldn't be here, or whatever it could be. And then he wants us to isolate. So I could have sat here all day feeling crappy, or decided to share it with these guys. And instantly, when you just share something when you're being vulnerable, it instantly takes that edge off of it, and you really realize that you're not alone. You're not the only one who's experiencing those types of feelings, and
that's really why the Bible tells us to walk together, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be yoked with each other. In other words, carry each other's burdens. Yeah, Chris, you said something in our last podcast that I thought was extremely good. You said that when you went through the darkest of times, that the two of your friends just camped out at your house, even though you didn't talk with them. You just knew they were there.
That's right.
But that wasn't exactly, you didn't need conversation. And this is how we're all different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some people, they need to talk. They need to have people right there. You needed something else.
Right. I just needed to know that there were people who loved me, who cared for me, and who just honestly who believed in me still. And the fact that one of them was married and he just said, "Honey, I got to go hang out with Chris for a while." And his wife was like, "Yeah, you do."
Yeah.
And they were totally supportive of me. Wow. And it just made all the difference in the world. You don't always have to say something. Coming alongside someone, the paraclete, the Holy Spirit, the comforter. That's what the word is, a comforter, a paraclete, someone who comes alongside you. Putting your arm around someone who hurts and just say, "I love you." If you need to talk, we can talk. If you don't want to, that's okay. But I love you and I'm here for you when you're ready.
Absolutely.
Have you ever had somebody look at you and say, "I know exactly how you feel"?
Yeah.
And you're thinking,
"I want to punch you in the face."
Right. You have no idea how I feel. That happens a lot. I've been there. I've gone through that. I know how you feel.
And everyone's pain is different. Everyone's experience is
absolutely
different. Yeah. You've been hurt in that way, but our experience could be very, very different. So.
Yeah, and folks, a lot of times we feel like when somebody's hurting that we have to give them advice.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing I usually want to hear when I'm hurting.
Yeah.
Some of the best responses I've ever had. I had something actually very similar. was going through a tremendous amount of pain. And a friend of mine came down, drove, I think it was probably around 12 hours, right after I told him what had happened. And I was completely devastated, and he drove 12 hours, came down into my room. I gave him a hug, which was huge. It was support. And he sat in a room with me for hours, never said a word to each other. He just sat there. That's all he did. So, like, into the evening, he's like, I know I know you're probably hungry. Would you like something to drink or something to eat? And, of course I couldn't eat at the time, but he was there. He never said anything. He didn't have to. That is love. Because when you don't know what to say, you're in the best possible position. Don't open your mouth.
Yeah.
You don't have to speak.
You're in the best. Yeah. You're moldable to God at this point when you're speechless. So let it just be that way.
Let him speak.
Yeah.
So here's the question, you guys. So when this event happens then, and you're at this place of extreme vulnerability and pain, what then keeps you from running away from God? And how does that process work? How do we decide to, and sometimes we start running away.
I was going to
What
say,
keeps us from running all the way, or what do we do that keeps us from coming back to God?
I did run some. I think, and I also deal some with depression. And there's part of me, whenever I go through things, sometimes I just want to crawl into a hole and pull the dirt in on top of me for a little bit. And that's how people know something's really wrong with me sometimes, is that I go silent. And I did some running. I did. I think the fact that you and a couple of other friends reached out to me and kind of pulled me out of that. What kept me probably more than anything else is, I keep thinking about this too, the foundation that I had, that my family, my parents put in me as a young child. I know some of you don't have that, but whenever I fell, I had a foundation to land on. And so I had to build that back up from that, but I did have that. And I don't know what I would have done without that. And like in the situation that you talked about, being an atheist, whenever you do deal with that hard time, it would seem to me to be so easy if you didn't have a foundation to land on, just to say, well, this didn't work, and go on to the next thing. And I'm thankful that didn't happen with you, because I think and in my life too, because I think there's a lot of times that I've asked God, gosh, I'm getting vulnerable here, but I've asked God, are you really there? Are you really there?
Absolutely.
I was a minister on staff at a church.
None of us are exempt from that.
I was on
anybody here
staff.
that hasn't asked that question?
Yes,
Exactly.
and I'm
Absolutely.
sitting there on staff
Absolutely.
saying, have I wasted my life
Yeah.
for something that's not real?
And do you think those are maybe sometimes the first thoughts we have when something catastrophic hits?
Well, you tried to live what he said to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute. You said that this is the way that you want me to live my life. So I have been. I've been trying my absolute best. But why is everything failing? Why is everything going in the direction that it is?
But why do we
So
believe
that's-
that? Like they were not supposed to.
We have that expectation, don't we?
that
Even
was
though
Right.
supposed to go wrong.
Even though the scripture always says, sorry, your life is going to be very hard.
Yeah.
You're going to be persecuted. You're going to suffer. You're
You will
going
die.
You're going to go through very difficult and painful things, and yet we all have this expectation that if we obey, if we do our very best to obey, things are going to be all right. And no one is immune from suffering.
And
Nobody's immune from pain and loss. We're
So,
not.
Chris, why then does it catch us off guard when it happens?
I gotta tell you, part of it, personally, is first of all, I never expected it from me. I just never thought that I would ever be in a place where I would actually question God anymore. And it just really caught me off guard. And when I got, it was a punch to the gut. It took everything out of me. Everything. And I didn't know, you were talking, I didn't know what to believe anymore. I mean, I had no solid ground anymore. And it just really caught me off guard. I mean, I'd been through, I'd had loss, I'd suffered some things, but I'd always come through very strong in my faith and stronger in my faith through those things. But for whatever reason, when this event happened, it was just so unexpected. I just wasn't prepared for it. I just really wasn't.
I remember whenever I went through what I did, that I even had guilt on top of the pain or the issues I was dealing with. I had the guilt that I would even think such things.
Right.
I would think, I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus. How can I be thinking these thoughts? And how can I?
Faith.
Right. How, Jesus is so disappointed in me, because I'm even questioning. When you ask some questions, not only talking about being vulnerable to people or the folks watching, but being vulnerable before God. When you admit that you're asking, are you really there? I'm mad at you. He's a big God. He can handle those questions.
Yeah.
But it puts me in a position where I'm thinking, I'm such a stupid person. And then I'm dealing with guilt on top of it. And many times these things compound, and you're dealing with more than just the issue at hand. You're dealing with the guilt because of your own thoughts and feelings as well.
Now, shouldn't we be a little bit afraid to say, God, I'm mad at you?
No.
Why?
No, because first off, the Son of God was nailed to a cross, bore all of our sins, and what did he say to his Father? In tremendous pain, we go there as if
We feel
God
forsaken.
doesn't love us, we feel forsaken. Jesus said, why have you forsaken me?
Because we equate God's love with feeling good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when
Psalm
I don't
13.
feel good, I must not be experiencing God's love. So
Yeah.
how then, folks, do you honestly find God in your pain then? Because that's where it gets tough.
I can tell you that in what I used to do when going through difficult times, I would say, Lord, please just get me through this. Get me to the other side of this. I want it to stop. And what I've learned is that pain is the great equalizer. It really is. It hits all of us. It hits us all. And ultimately, it brings us all back to Him. Because we realize that He's everything we have. He's everything. And it's an old axiom, He's everything you have, and you won't believe it truly till He's all that's left. And it's true.
I love the
Oh, that's
story.
good.
It's true.
I love the
It's
story
absolutely
of
true.
John the Baptist when he was about to be beheaded. He sent his friends to Jesus to say, "Are you really the one?
Are you the one?
This
Should we
is the
expect somebody
man,
else?"
the man who baptized Jesus and heard God say, 'This is my son.'" God was speaking to John when he said that. "This is my son." And then when he's about to be beheaded, he sends his friends, "Are you really the one?" But Jesus responded to him by saying, "Remember.
Yeah.
Remember what you've seen. Remember what's happened and what we've been through." And for me, I think in my life, that's kind of where I went back to, is I remember the things that He's done for me, and I know that it's not all in my mind. I know it's real, and I see the difference He's made in my life. Even though I've been through what I've been through, and this happened, I still remember Him there.
I'll admit that actually the prayer I've been praying the most in my life is, I believe, it helped my disbelief. I pray that so often because I believe God. I believe God is the God of healing, of salvation, of comfort, of love. And so often I feel, I don't feel it, or I have all those thoughts of the world that no, it's probably not going to turn out the way, and that Jesus says, with plans of hope and the future and everything, and also specifically with the healing. When I'm just in disbelief over like my sister's pregnancy, where the child doesn't have very good odds, and the doctor says this is prepare yourself for
The worst.
the worst.
Yeah.
My son, the doctor said that the placenta is probably going to give out most likely. So I just wanted to just be aware you might have a stillborn son. And then and you hear it from the professional, but you believe that God is there. He's the one who created us. He's the creator of life and healing. But still, I have that disbelief, and I think it's so amazing that is one of the things in the Bible where Jesus asks this man, "Do you believe?" And the man says, "I believe." Help my disbelief, and Jesus still acts on it.
Yeah.
Even though this man didn't have a 200% belief that yes, I believe, no doubt about it. He knew that he had some disbelief.
He made himself vulnerable.
Yeah,
He put himself
and I
out there.
think that that honesty, be aware that you might have
Absolutely.
disbelief, but still turn to God, because who
Yes.
else do we have?
Well, it's not like he doesn't know.
Yeah,
Right.
It's not like God doesn't know. If you don't tell him, he still knows. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, it really it helps us when we're
Absolutely.
honest with our Father. It helps us.
We want to continue this next time and talk about how much faith do we need to be a successful Christian? Because that's a big question that really all of us struggle with. How much does it take? Next time.